Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hit and Hustle from OurSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Famong, and joined as always by Jamie Uwayama. Jamie, first of all, tough loss for Notre Dame football or Notre Dame baseball yesterday. Season ended. How much did you follow it? Are you heartbroken?
I'll be heartbroken if Link Jarrett is gone. If that's the last game for Link Jarrett, that would be unfortunate.
Yes.
I don't want to lie and pretend like I'm following every game. And I was very happy that Notre Dame made the College World Series. But I didn't watch. I didn't watch the last game. Sorry.
Yeah.
To
Our friend, the former fellow beat writer, Carter Carls. So he's at Texas A&M alum,
and he's a Florida State beat writer now.
And he's a Florida State beat writer, and so then he throws out the tweet like right after the game, like, "Oh, but season's over. Now Florida State can go after Link Jarrett." It just felt to me it was a little bit like he had to have composed that tweet like
he had that in the drafts ready to go.
He had it in drafts. It really hurts my feelings. Notre Dame Geo, you know what? That is true. I'm definitely used to saying tough love for Notre Dame football. But that, you know what? That's going to change, man. That I feel it. That change is in the air. Things are definitely happening. And so on that note, let's transition over to the kind of the topic of the show. So as everyone is aware, mostly aware anyway, the official visits of June are wrapped up. Notre Dame basically knocked them all out on the 10th and the 17th, those weekends. And they could have had one this weekend, but they decided they didn't want to do that. I think they wanted their that's Poot. All right. Hey, what's up, Poot? So they wanted the staff to kind of get a break and that sort of thing, get everything wrapped up. So now that the official visits are over and all of their main recruiting targets have visited campus officially, except for one, which is funny. Let's go into predictions, right? So we've gotten an update from Matt and Christian on the site for the last 2 weeks. They've been killing it, getting interviews with all the everyone who came, all the key prospects. They Matt and Christian have put together it's kind of a hot and cold, like a list, a target list. Hot, warm, and cold, that sort of thing. And so we're going to gather all that information here, and then we're going to put our names to it, right? I told Matt this was the topic of the show. We were going to make predictions, and he was just like, "R.I.P. man, no one forgets. If you get one wrong, they're
yeah, that is true. They don't forget. They don't forget.
You know what? I told him, man, I don't need people to remember or forget or anything. I just need you to watch the show, and that's what we're here for. We're here to have some fun discussions. So let's start out. Oh man, should we start? You know what? Let's start out with quarterback. Okay, that's what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna put it to you. I'm gonna put it to you like this. Okay, I'm gonna give you 2023 quarterback. Okay, I'm gonna give you Dante Moore. I'm gonna give you CJ Carr, or I'm gonna give you the field. Which one are you taking right now?
I think I'm going to take the field.
Okay.
I think I'll probably be wrong, and it'll probably be CJ Carr reclassifying. That's the way it kind of just seems like. It just seems like inevitable to me now. Like just based on, it went from like, nah, definitely not, to like, oh, maybe, and then all of a sudden, like it's there just seems to be too many rumblings about it. But I'm just gonna say it's the field, just because I just think like for people who follow it closely, like Notre Dame's about to get a rolling in 2024 as well.
Right.
And then it's like, then you got to get another quarterback in there. It's a lot easier to get a 2024 guy than it is a 2023 guy. But I don't know, for just some reason, I just think like he's going to be a little bit more connected to that class and kind of coming in late to the 2023 class. But I don't know. I could be wrong. I'll take the field. Happily throw it in my face if I'm wrong there.
So here's the thing with the field, right? they haven't offered a 2023 quarterback yet who isn't, anyone new, right? So
Yeah.
they we thought after CJ Carr committed, you and I talked about they're going to have to offer someone at some point, and they haven't yet. And whatever they're waiting for, I'm not really sure, right? And the mystery behind Dante Moore is kind of like,
I think it's pretty obvious what they're waiting for. They're waiting to see what's going on with Dante Moore, if they're going to get some more clarity there. And if they don't get more clarity there, they're waiting to see what's going on with Carr reclassifying, because
right,
if that those are the two options, right? Like you said, and then
right.
the field, because as soon as they know that like neither of those are happening, then they have to make a move, and then they got to go on from there, right? But I think they don't want it's like one of those things. It's like they don't want to offer somebody, and then all of a sudden, a week later, well, Clark's reclassifying. Oh, by the way, that offer, forget
Right.
about it. They don't want to do that, right? So, and they don't want to do that if all of a sudden, like Dante Moore's like, listen, you know what? Like, I've kind of had it with this drama. Like, whatever, I'm coming for this date, and blah 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 blah. Like, then that's it. But I think if neither of those things happen, because I don't think, here's the thing with the reclassifying. If Carr wants to reclassify, especially at Notre Dame, this isn't like going to North Carolina and declaring you're going to go there in the summer, and then all of a sudden you're like, you just magically skip a year because you took a couple classes. Like,
Yeah.
that's not happening at Notre Dame. You have to put in all the work, and even if he's taken extra classes already, he still will have to take more, right? So it's a process. Like, he's going to have to put in work and work hard academically to do that. So he can't make a decision like in December that he's going to reclassify for 2023. Like that's not happening at Notre Dame. He needs to make a decision now before this full academic year, because this is his last academic year. So that's why. So I would say before August for sure. July is this month coming up is the time when you're going to find out about that.
Right. And that's why I was saying, like, what they're waiting for as far as like the clock is ticking, right? Because they do need to figure it out, and they do need to know. Because the other part is like, look, I'm sure they're talking to other quarterbacks, right? But there's a difference between I'm talking to you and I'm wanting to try to get you in the class, right? And with an offer and everything, because those quarterbacks are being heavily pursued by other schools, right? Now, maybe not Notre Dame's caliber, but they're being pursued by other schools. So they do need to decide. And I do think there is a bit of mystery as to how they're handling the Dante Moore situation. Like, are they still talking to him, right? We haven't really heard anything about that. And I don't really want to speculate on it, just because it's pretty much unfounded, right? I don't want to make any guesses. So for me, if I was to make a prediction, I would actually, given what we know today, I would predict that Carr reclassifies, because from everything that we've heard, he is doing the things that he needs to do and plans to do the things that he needs to do. But he has said, I don't want to yet. Right. And it's not, I absolutely believe him when he says that. It's not that I think he's playing games or anything. I do think that's true, but I think that we know that he's talking to guys like Rico Flores. We know he's talking to Braylon James. We know he's talking to Jaden Greathouse. And I think just over time, it's going to get in his mind, like, maybe I could just come in, right? Like maybe I am ready to go, right? Because he would be reclassifying into his age group, I guess, is a better way to put it, right? So I'm it's like a super soft prediction, right? Like, so I'm predicting it based on kind of like a hunch, not anything that
it's not anything concrete.
Yeah. Like it's not anything reported or anything that Matt or Christian has heard. It's just like, that's kind of a guess that I'm making because of all of these predictions we're doing today. Like, quarterback is the one where it's like really just kind of speculating because we don't really know. But hey, that's why you do a
Yeah.
show. So that's
one
kind of
the one thing on the Dante Moore front, and this is the rest will say there, is that like, so Dante Moore took a visit to Texas A&M,
Yeah.
and as expected, he said like nothing afterwards. Like,
Right.
you know, and for those that know, our Sports Dailies, we're partners with TexAgs, which is like the biggest Texas A&M site. They have great staff, awesome people who work there, and you know, Jason Howell is one of the people who works there, and you know, and I mean, Jason Howell's worked as recruiting reporter for years and years in Texas, and he used to work for Rivals and is outstanding at his job. I mean, he as with most guys, they got zero read from him because he doesn't say much. So it's just like
Right.
he didn't give any kind of indication. So, and I think everything we hear too is, and it doesn't matter it's from a Notre Dame reporter or a national reporter or anybody, no one has any good read on what he's doing, so that it makes it even tougher to kind of like base anything on him. So really, it's way, like you said, it's going to be more based on Carr and what his decision is. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the one thing I'll say about Dante Moore too, is we've seen recruitments over the last couple of years. Like I remember like Billy Strouth last year, and even Christian Gray this year, where it's like it was trending. It was like Notre Dame, and then it was trending away, and it was going in another direction, and then all of a sudden it came back to Notre Dame. Is that something that I could see happening? Like I could see it. I'm not predicting it right now because it's one of those things. Like it's hard to predict like something just completely flipping like that, but it's happened, right? So it wouldn't shock me, to be honest with you. Anyway, that's where we're at with quarterback for right now. Let's move on to running back. Obviously, Notre Dame already has Jaden Lamar in the class. They are after Richard Young, the 5-star running back from Florida, and they're also after Jeremiah Love out of Missouri, although he's like a kind of an athlete designation. I put him in a running back though, just to make it easier. But let's start with those two guys. Where do you say, would you say yay or nay on Jeremiah Love right now?
I'm going to say nay to him. And I do think Notre Dame has a chance, but just, I think I'll wait until the visits kind of like play out over the next like little bit. I think he's taking another visit this weekend, and it's like all the guys that they're going against are all like, it's all the top tier guys, top tier programs that they're going against. And I think there was like good vibes after the Notre Dame visit, but like you kind of, a lot of those vibes are after the other visits as well. So I'm going to say nay with him. I would have said probably a month ago, I probably would have said, yeah, he's probably going to be in the class. But I would say if I'm leaning towards anything, it would be like, it's like, if I was going to make a prediction, it would be like 30% Notre Dame. Well, that's not good enough, right? Like that's, you know, based on this right now. So I would say nay.
Yeah, it's tough, right? So he pretty much blew up from when Notre Dame first offered him. He was a 3-star, I think he was, and now he's like composite top 100 player. So obviously that's, you know, that changes the recruitment, right? And he, you know, A&M, I think Oregon was another player, and I think Alabama as well. So you know, we're talking about a much different profile of school that's after him. And so, you know, I'm gonna say yes. I think he makes it into the class because Notre Dame's been after him the hardest for the longest, I should say. And I think they need him, and I think they really want him. They're going to treat him like a priority. And I think when Notre Dame does that, when Notre Dame turns up the heat on somebody, I like their chances. You know, I think, and especially when Dylan McCullough is the one, like he seems to have like a really good,
he's a very good recruiter.
When he goes after somebody, he knows, you know, and I think we saw that with Richard Young. Notre Dame was not in it at all, and now they're in it. And I think, I don't think going up against a school like Alabama or a school like Oregon or A&M, I don't think if things like NIL aren't going to be major factors, and I don't think that's the case with Love. I haven't heard that. If that's not going to be a factor and it's just straight like I'm trying to just choose the best school for me, then I like Notre Dame when they've been on someone longer than everybody else. So I'm with you. Like the vibes are kind of tough to read.
Yeah,
but I
just
think,
not sure. Yeah.
But I think when Notre Dame has their sights set, I like how it's going to turn out.
I mean, a huge win. I absolutely love him as a prospect.
Right. Yeah. What do you think about Richard Young there?
Richard Young, I do think Notre Dame will have a shot, but my guess is they'll probably finish second or third for him. And they won't get him. So, so I guess I'm predicting that Lamar will be the only back that they take in this class. Yeah. But I mean, I think ultimately they have a much better shot at Love than they do Young, just because you got to get Young back for an unofficial in the fall. Can you get him back for like a Clemson or something like that? Maybe. And I think, maybe that'll be different and the predictions will change then. But I think as of today, I guess like Notre Dame got in the race, but I wouldn't say they're like, if he was choosing today, they wouldn't get him. I don't think.
Yeah. And I think that they got in the race. The fact that they did just kind of shows what Dylan McCullough can do, right? And how he can kind of reach a player and just kind of say like, all right, like come in, come into the school and check us out. Right. And that's not normally what he would do. It would take like Richard Young to change his timeline. And that's just hard to do, right? Like it's like if you have a player who's kind of set on how they want it to play out, if they to change it, like if we hear the Richard Young is like, I'm taking it into the season, like now actually we got something. And now I might start to feel a different way. But as long as Richard Young is kind of like sticking to like, all right, I want to decide before my senior year, then we're going to be good. Then I'm going to like there's just not enough. He hasn't been to campus enough. He hasn't been a part of kind of like that recruiting scene for long enough. And so I feel like they would, I just feel like they're going to miss there. So I'm going to predict like they're going to have Jaden Lamar and Jeremiah Love in the class as running backs, which would be a great haul.
It'd be fantastic.
Like really good. Yeah. All right. Moving on to wide receivers. Braylon James already in the class. Notre Dame has their sights set on Rico Flores, Ronan Hannafin, and Jaden Greathouse. They are the kind of the big three there, with Micah Tease as kind of a wild card. Let me just I'm going to give you the big three who are the kind of like the main guys right now. Where do you stand with all three of them? Just rattle them off one by one. Who do you think they're going to end up with?
Well, I think Greathouse, yes. Hannafin, yes. And Flores, yes. I think they're going to get all three.
It's hard to say no to that. So Flores is still going to Ohio State this weekend, I believe. And it's hard to know because Ohio State was the leader for a really long time.
Yeah.
And this is according to Matt, right? So talking to him, he said, Ohio State is his team. But we don't know if he's going to be a take right now because of the Noah Rogers situation. They landed Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes yesterday. So it was just about kind of like Noah Rogers and where Ohio State stood there. He was supposed to visit this weekend, and apparently he didn't. He went to NC State instead or something. But there's kind of like conflicting why that happened or whatever. But, Rico Flores is going to Ohio State, I believe. As of today, he's going to be at Ohio State this weekend. That's the one where you kind of wonder if Ohio State can convince him that they're, really in on him, or he's going to be a take or anything like that. Notre Dame has made him a priority for the last couple of months. And I think they're going to pull it off, regardless of what Ohio State does. I think when you go in on somebody for like 2 months and you're a take for us, it doesn't matter what else happens. Like, you're a top of the board guy. Then you get around the team and everything, and you come in on the visit, and you're with Braylon James, and this is one where CJ Carr was on campus for this, right? You get around it, and it's like you're made a priority, and you're made to feel like you're a top of the board guy. I think it's to the point where Notre Dame has overcome whatever advantage Ohio State may have had, right? I think there's still going to be a pull for him, but I think they end up with him, and I think they're going to end up with all three of those guys, right? I think with Greathouse, I think they increased the lead that they had going into it, and same thing with Ronan Hannafin. So at minimum, I think we're going to look at Braylon James, Jaden Greathouse, Ronan Hannafin, and Rico Flores at wide receiver, which would be a phenomenal group.
That's a good group.
It's a really good group. Where do you stand on Micah Tease? I know they're looking at him wide receiver. Where are you?
I like Micah Tease, and I would take him. I would take him as a receiver, if or like an athlete. Really, I would take him in as an athlete, and you kind of get him. But I mean, I guess we'll get into kind of the corner thing. But if they're now all of a sudden, like, no one was talking about Josiah Wagner as a guy, and right. I'm sure we'll get into him. But if they're going to take Wagner along with Gray and Mike, they're very likely going to get Gray and Micah Bell. So if that's the case, and then they're going to take Wagner too, it doesn't really leave a spot there for Tease, unless they say you're leaning towards receiver. I mean, I really like him. I think he's great speed. I think he's a guy who could play offense, but if they don't see him there, then they don't see him. I don't know. Right. So, but yeah. I know just back on your kind of Flores point, I think there's one thing about it too. I think there's a big difference between say if it was like UCLA versus Ohio State in that situation. And Flores was like, well, you know what? Ohio State, man, it's like a lot different than Ohio. I want to go to Ohio State. And then there's UCLA, and it's like, UCLA is not a bad school or anything. They're going to be pretty good. It's not like a bad place to go. But the distance between Ohio State and Notre Dame for a receiver, it's not as, the gap isn't as crazy as it would be for UCLA. And then if it's kind of obvious how they're recruiting you, and it's obvious that they like Noah Rogers better than you, that's a tough thing to kind of overcome. I guess they can spin it. If he really, really wants that, then he'll want it. That's why I just think it won't matter ultimately. And I think Flores is going to go to Notre Dame. Yeah.
I would just say, why would Flores go if he wasn't still interested? I mean, he probably still is interested. Look, to me, you go. If they've been your top school for a long time, you go. I think Notre Dame is going to overcome whatever interest there is. That's my thing. It's not that I don't think
it's not like, and the other thing is, it's not that they're not interested in him. It's just like they have like a plethora of guys that they could take.
Yeah,
so
it's just different.
It's different. And then the reason they have that is because they're just like stacks on stacks and stacks of like unbelievable blue chip prospects.
Yeah.
And of course, Hartline is got it rolling there. Receivers are playing at a high level. They're getting drafted at a high level. They got like Heisman contenders for quarterbacks. They got first round picks after first round picks. They're like, of course a receiver would want to go there. They'd be stupid to not want to go there. Right. So it totally makes sense why they would have been his leader this whole time. If Ohio State was into you, if you're strictly looking at the best football situation for a receiver, it's hard to match it up with anybody really. Right. Because even if you look at say Alabama versus Ohio State, Ohio State has a level of consistency at the receiver position that even Alabama can't match. Yeah. So, I mean, if that's where you think like this is going to help you get to the league, whatever. I mean, the reality is if you're good, you can go to anywhere, right? And go to the league, but it's an enticing thing. And I get why anyone would be interested.
Right. Yeah. If Ohio State's coming after you, wide receiver, I mean, you're going to be.
They're coming after you anywhere. It makes total sense. Like you can't look at it through Notre Dame eyes of like, I hate Ohio State or Urban Meyer's a scumbag or whatever narrative you want to point to or whatever. You have to look at it as I'm a 17-year-old kid. This is like my dream is like playing big time college football, getting 1,000 yards and going to the NFL. Then you're like, well, the most guys do it at Ohio State. That's the way a lot of these guys look at it.
Cool. All right. I wanted to bring up a comment from where's my guy? Justin Knox. I've known Justin for a long time. He asked Love if has a time frame. So I just texted Matt Freeman about that, and he said no, he doesn't believe so. So it's kind of up in the air as far as Jeremiah Love. So all right, let's move on to offensive line. So obviously Notre Dame has their four with Sullivan, Absher, Sam Pendleton, Otting, and who's the last one?
Elijah Page.
That's right. So it's right now Charles Jagusah, and it's Monroe Freeling. Give me the Charles Jagusah prediction.
I think we get him for sure.
For sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Michigan was making some kind of a run, I guess.
No, Michigan.
No Michigan. All right.
No.
So okay.
I think he's going to go to Notre Dame. I think he's going to take his time, whatever, and over the next couple of weeks. I think he's going to probably decide in July, before kind of like his senior year starts. And I think something would have to change. I think if today's the pick, Jagusah, he's going to be Irish. That's how I see it.
Okay. I see it similar. So that's how I feel about it. What do you think? Monroe Freeling, six offensive linemen. How do you feel about that?
First of all, I'm fine with them taking 6 if Monroe Freeling is the 6th. And if they have an idea of what's going to happen with some of the other guys, because that means that there's going to be roster attrition. They're like planned roster attrition. Like they know guys are not going to be there, so if they have an idea, if that's the idea they have, I'm fine with that. In saying that, I just have a feeling Monroe Freeling's not going to choose Notre Dame.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I feel like the vibes were really good, and then they were not, or like less so, I guess. Right. Like, and I don't know what to attribute.
I think they're still pretty good. It's just
I think he was going to wait.
He's going to wait. I think.
I don't know. That's not what they were really interested in. Here's the other part too. There's a bunch of like positions like Jeremiah Love, right? For one, and like Richard Young. So let's say Jeremiah Love pops. Okay. And so you have him in the class, and then Richard Young is like, I want to wait, And so now it's like, okay, now we're taking like 3 backs. And then you get to a situation where like Samuel and Pemba, like you start to feel like, wow, maybe we could take an extra defensive lineman or extra linebacker or something. And then it's like, oh, Micah T's like, oh, I kind of feel like maybe I want to join. And so like over
this is
time,
the thing. Yeah. It's going to be the overall numbers in the class and how they view it, because if they're getting some of these top guys at these other positions, then they're probably going to be like, yeah, we're cool. And if not, then they're going to be like, of course, Monroe Freeling, let's come on in.
Right.
Like, yeah.
And so, but the thing is, and everyone is kind of asking about like like David Solomon is asking, like, I don't understand if Ohio State is accepting Flores on a visit, like, what do you mean they won't take him, kind of thing. And it's just that.
Well, they still might not. They might call him on Thursday. They might call him tomorrow or today. and they might say, yeah, sorry, we're gonna take, we're full. Sorry,
We're
just letting
taking
you know.
X.
That could happen. Like that has happened. At Notre Dame it's happened recently, right? Like,
and even if they don't, it's like, look, we're hosting you on this visit, and we're giving you the full court press because Noah Rogers said no, or we feel like we're losing out on Noah Rogers or somebody. And it's like there's a difference when you are like, we are taking you, we are putting, we want you as a 4 in this class. We want 4 minimum. You are part of the 4, and you are the guy, right? Just like if Notre Dame tried to, like, let's say Flores chose Ohio State, right? And Notre Dame tried to get in with Malik Elzy or Daniel Manning or something. Like, okay, they're a take at that point, but they're not. They weren't takes originally. They wanted other people ahead of them, and that's kind of the difference. And I'm not saying that's what's going on with Monroe Freeling, but like when you're the 6th, and you for another class you could be like the 2nd or the 3rd guy. Like that's when it just kind of gets different, right? There's a different vibe to it when it's a want, not a need, and so that's why, like, it just seems to me like Freeling is fading away from Notre Dame for whatever reason. And
well, here's another reason why it might be is that, like, look who they've recruited at offensive tackle. Like,
right,
there's a lot of competition, right? And I'm not saying like he's going to be scared of the competition or anything like that, but I mean, only 2 guys start at offensive tackle. And just look at, like, let's just say Joe Alt stays at left tackle and then he leaves after whatever. Well, there's like Emil Wagner who's there. And let's just say he's the next guy. And then you got Elijah Page and you got Sullivan Absher. And like, there's a lot of guys that are going to play offensive tackle that are really good prospects, really going to be really good players. And I'm not saying that Freeling couldn't come in and be the best out of those guys. He could be, but like, it's just one of those things where like, say if he chooses Clemson, he's like that dude, you know what I mean? In their class. Like, it's a different, and I don't know that that's what he's looking at or whatever, but like, I mean, it's certainly a selling point. That'd be something that Notre Dame would be selling if the shoe was on the other foot, right? So I think that's something, he might be looking at, and a bunch of other people might be looking at. And a lot of times too, when it comes to like, so Notre Dame, like, we talked about all the wide receivers at Ohio State. Well, Notre Dame is kind of like that for O-line, right? Or kind of like that for tight end. And it doesn't really seem to scare people off. Kind of. But I don't know, like, say if like, I don't know this for a fact, but like if I'm Deuce Robinson, for example, and then you're like, man, of course I'd want to go to like tight end Notre Dame, right? But it's like, well, if he goes to Notre Dame, maybe he plays right away because he's so good or whatever, like a Michael Mayer was so good and that happened. Or maybe he's got to sit on the bench for 2 years because there's just mature dudes who can like do more stuff in the offense, right? Like, and that's something that I mean, all these guys had to weigh about it. I mean, I don't think that is something that I think people think about when why it always seems like they, like Alabama will get any back they want or whatever, right? Like they can get any back they want, but there's definitely some guys that they want that they don't get because guys are like, I mean, look at the guys in front of me. Like if I go to TCU or wherever, right? Like I'm going to be the dude there, right? Like, and some people just want that like automatic, like I'm going to be the dude. And that's something to think about.
It's like, look at what the situation with Tommy Tremble, right? I mean, it's a 3rd round pick who left, maybe before he should have, because it's like, I'm not going to get the targets because Michael Mayer's here. So it's like he's going to be the guy who's going to catch 70 balls.
Though I think I had heard before the season that it was like, oh, if he has a good year, he's going.
Right.
Like I think he kind of just was like, he had that mentality, and some guys just do, right? Like I think if Alize Mack was like, didn't have the problems that he had, and he was like more of a dude earlier, he definitely would have been a 3-and-out guy, right? Like there's just some guys have that kind of mentality, even though Tommy Tremble wasn't recruited like that in terms of like where his standing is, but he's that. But yeah, it is that is definitely a thing though, right? Where was he going to get more like, and all of a sudden, are you going to be like, Tommy, come back because we're going to throw the ball to you more? But they're like, well, now we're going to throw the ball to Michael Mayer less. Like, I don't know if that's a good thing, right? Like, there's a lot of that goes hand in hand there.
Yeah. All right. Let's move over to the defensive line. Obviously, they have 4 committed right now, which is already a great defensive line class, and they are heavy after Jason Moore, the top at least top 100, maybe top 50, into like kind of big end interior 3 tech from DeMatha Catholic in Maryland. So Jamie, where do you stand on that?
I think he's going to Notre Dame. I think it's, I think he's going to Ohio State this weekend, but I believe like Ohio State is more likes him, but doesn't love him. And I think that, Notre Dame has made him, like you kind of said with some of these other guys, where Notre Dame has really made him a priority and done that. And then obviously, Al Washington is an amazing recruiter and stuff too. So I think he's going to end up at Notre Dame.
I'll tell you, man, we did the show. What show was it? It was a long time ago. You know what? It was like or like maybe, when was Al Washington hired? Well, he was in December, wasn't he? We did a December show, and you were like, Al Washington is just a phenomenal recruiter. And I got to tell you, if that wasn't the greatest call, because he is crushing. I mean,
he is crushing.
So good. It's just, I mean, it's one thing. Look, we said, right, what with Mike Elston, he was a big development guy, almost to a fault, right? Like he would look for these diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, and he fell in love with some projects. Yeah,
he would find them, but he would there would be project guys, and it's just like there's another level that we're at, and I'll be darned if Al Washington didn't just come in and be like, hey, guess what? Like we're gonna go get like the Brennan Vernons, and we're gonna get Jason Moore, and we're gonna get Devin Houston. And Boubacar Traore. I mean, these are top. I mean, we haven't. Notre Dame hasn't gotten this caliber of player all in one class, like 5 in. Like I said, man, it's just been such a long time. Like people talk about the 2011 class, like that was the 3 guys, you know, and that was great, but it was 3 of them, not 5. So tremendous stuff. I agree. I think Jason Moore is going to end up at Notre Dame. How do you want to handle Mpemba? Do you want
Mpemba? I mean, I think they're like kind of like recruiting him as like a hybrid guy.
Okay.
I do think he's a viper. I think he's a viper. So I think that ultimately that's where he's going to go. And ultimately you want to have, I mean, if you get him, he's a guy you want rushing the passer at the same time as Keon Keeley. You want both those guys on the field. And if you have that, oh my gosh, it's good luck offensive line. It's going to be devastating. I would say today, I will say Notre Dame doesn't get him. But obviously he's still got to take the official. There's a long way to go. I'd say if it probably ended up today, he'd probably go to Georgia. But there's like Miami's very in it. There's a lot of factors in there, but like to me, he's just like one of those guys. Like if Notre Dame gets him, it's like it very similar to like the Caleb Downs situation, where it's just like, oh my God, like just let's throw a parade in downtown South Bend, like because when you add him on top of the guys, it's kind of like what Texas A&M last year. And they took 8 defensive linemen. You're like, this is insane. They took 8 in a class. Like, that's crazy. Then you look at the 8 they took, and then you're like, well, it's not crazy because, like, they're pretty much guaranteed that at least 3 of these guys are going to be amazing, right? Like, and, and if they don't, though, they might bounce out, but that's still, like, they're going to have that. It's just like, you just wouldn't turn them down, and there's no way you would ever turn down Mpemba no matter what. And even if he was like, hey, you know what? I think I want to play tight end. You'd be like, here you go, man.
Great.
Hey, Coach
Love
Parker, get Coach Parker. You got another one here for you. Like that's literally what you would do with a guy like him. So I mean, I say no today. Hope that flips later on.
Yeah, he's maybe the hardest one, just because we know it's like a December decision type situation. He's not visiting till November, so
I think all his visits, I believe, are happening.
Right, I would say Notre Dame not the leader today. So he's
top 3 today. Yeah.
I mean, look, they're getting a visit, and look, we'll see, right? And that's one where, like, look, if Notre Dame comes out and you beat Ohio State in the opener, and all of a sudden you're undefeated going into the Clemson game that Mpemba's going to, I mean, the juice is going to be running for Notre Dame at that point, and that's when I mean, you could be talking like a number 2, 3 team, that he's going to see, and so yeah, that's a lot of variables at play for Samuel Mpemba. So he's kind of the one wait and see here. All right, let's go to linebacker. I think there's just one on the board. It's Jaden Osbury. Obviously lives right across the street from LSU, or at least his high school is there. And, but it looks like that may not be where he's headed. So where are you at?
I'm going to say Notre Dame's going to get him. I think he's going to be in the class.
Yeah. Matt has a really good read on this because he told me in like March, maybe, when he came up for an unofficial, he came up for a spring practice, and he was like, I think now it's just about Osbury like wrapping his mind around the fact that he's wants to go to Notre Dame, like is a fit at Notre Dame, and that's where he wants to go to school. And as long as he wraps his mind around it, I think he loves Notre Dame, and I think that's where he wants to go. And I think they got there. I really do. And look, we talked about it on the show previously. Marcus Freeman is your head coach linebacker guy. Al Golden is your defensive coordinator linebacker guy. And then we talked about Mason, who's also the special teams guy, but he worked a lot with like the Rovers and that sort of thing.
James Laurinaitis, that's a pretty good guy to have there too.
I mean, if
he was recruited by Al Washington. Al Washington already had a relationship with him in previous. So there was a lot of things there that suggested like Notre Dame was going to be in it no matter what. And I really just think that, and the other thing is Notre Dame's linebackers are going to be good this year. Very good.
Right.
And I think when you kind of see that kind of combination of that, I think that's going to just, he might decide sooner than I think he's going to announce in December. I think he's going to decide sooner than that, and probably maybe silently commit somewhere or whatever. But I do think, Notre Dame will get him.
Yeah, it just seems like they got there, and it's like I was saying it with other guys. When Notre Dame zeroes in and they can put the press on you with, again, all those guys we were just talking about, and you're interested and they know you're interested, and they get you can always kind of tell when Notre Dame, this staff has a good feel for a player.
Yeah.
And I think he is one where they have a good feel for him. They know how to reach him, and they rarely miss. It seems, right? In a short period of time, you can just kind of tell when they've got somebody. All right, let's move on to cornerback. Very important one, because they had Justin Redd in the class and they lost him to Georgia. So it's Christian Gray, Micah Bell, and Josiah Wagner. Let's start with Christian Gray. Matt actually had an update on the board on him that I recommend everyone goes to look at. That is a very positive, in my opinion, for Notre Dame. So where are you at on Christian Gray right now?
Notre Dame's going to get him. He's going to commit. He's committing on July 4th. I believe he's going to commit to Notre Dame.
Yep. He was supposed to go to USC.
Didn't go
last weekend. Did not go. And again,
Ohio State was supposed to go. Not going.
Not going to Ohio State.
Not going.
So look, visit Notre Dame, the leader going in, and then the next 2 official visits you cancel.
Yeah.
Good signs. I would
Very
say
good sign.
good signs. So, all right.
The
So
vibes are good.
Vibes are good. And look, Micah Bell, same, right?
Yeah.
You have a commitment date, July 1st.
Doesn't have any other visits
No other
planned.
officials, not going anywhere else.
Say it's pretty good.
The vibes are good.
Yeah. And I think they're absolutely, this is obviously a critical position, because if you look at Notre Dame is always kind of where the team is now, is the front seven is the strength of the defense, right? Like the Notre Dame's going to have a very good defensive line, a deep defensive line. They're going to have a really good pass rush again. And they're obviously, we know how they're recruiting on the defensive line already. We know that the linebackers are going to be great this year. They're really, really good. And if you look at, I think like 9 of the 11 linebackers were blue chips, like 4 or 5-star guys, right? And the other 2 are Maris Liufau and Jack Kaiser. So like that's where they're at in terms of linebacker talent. And then they got, Zinter and Drake Bowen, whatever, and then hopefully Jaden Osbury as well. So they're rolling there. And then to me, secondary, it's not like they lack talent, but it doesn't match up with what they have in the front seven especially in terms of depth. And so it's critical that they do well after, I think last class I like the corners they said in last class. I think they have a chance to all be really good. Jaden Mickey, Jaden Bellamy, and then Benjamin Morrison. But you got to follow it up. And that's been always the thing, is that for the longest time, Notre Dame would have like a class where they're like, they signed a couple pretty good corners, but they didn't follow it up in the next class, or they're spotty with the other things, or they're taking numbers, but more like projects. And Notre Dame was, after a while, like Brian Kelly was doing the spin of like, oh, we like receivers that we're going to convert to corners. And it's like, sometimes that works, but it's like, that's projecting a lot, right? You're asking a lot of your cornerbacks coach to develop these guys and stuff too. So even a guy like Ramon Henderson, who they were like, yeah, well, now he's a safety, right? So there's all this kind of stuff. It's a hard thing to do. So this is a critical thing. So let's just say that to have 2 guys in July, and if they get those guys locked in, like massive, just massive.
And it's like, so Christian Gray, right? Like would project as more of a boundary guy because he's long. He's built a lot like Cam Hart, right? And Cam Hart obviously is a nice profile for a boundary corner. And then you look at Micah Bell, who is, first of all, these are both top like 150 players. So let's put it like that, right? So good pedigree there. Then Micah Bell, like perfect field corner, right? Someone who you want over top of like anything deep. It's like 10-4 guy. Let me tell you, look. People talk about like 10-4, 20 sub 21 200. That is like, people talk about like Troy Pride, like really fast, right? Like this is beyond that.
Yeah.
Okay. Beyond Troy Pride speed. So it's really, really good profile for the position and where they project and everything. So would be massive to land those 2 players. And look, credit to Mike Mickens. I've hand up, right? Like for me, it was like, look, I need to see it. And this is the thing that we've been looking for, right? Like in terms of like where he can take the position recruiting wise. Right. So a great follow-up to, Benjamin Morrison and Jaden Mickey and Jaden Bellamy from last cycle. So let's keep it at corner. Josiah Wagner. Where are we at with him? Where do you think?
I think it's tough to tell because he's kind of like a little bit more unknown, and that was like his first visit,
right?
And obviously he was blown away, and I think Notre Dame's in a good spot for him. But so I'm gonna say he does end up in the class, but like if all of a sudden he goes on a visit next week and then he's like, wow, he's going there, like I wouldn't be shocked either. But I do think like. So yeah, this is where it becomes interesting because I'll say he's in the class, and if he's not in the class, then I think they will, really kind of push for the Micah T's part of it. And I think they should, at the very least, they should do that if that's the case.
I mean, look, on Micah T's, just push.
I like him.
Yeah, I just take him. Like to me, you take him. Like if it's between him and Monroe Freeling, like it's kind of tough. I'm always going to lean towards the skill guy because that's who I am. Maybe you'll go the other way. but especially because Notre Dame, like they have such, like they don't do very well, like recruiting the slots. They don't do great. Like Micah Tease, like to me, it's like almost like a Sean Crawford thing where it's like, yeah, show up, you're the nickel guy, like right away. Like you're just starting as a nickel player and you're inside and you're making plays everywhere. Take them, like push as hard as you can. And if you want to take Josiah Wagner too, that's great. To me, it's like, are they giving Wagner the full send? You know what I mean? Like if they give him the full send, I think he'll be in the class. If it's kind of like we're giving you the 3/4 send, then you're vulnerable to kind of another program.
Like, but it didn't sound like they gave him the 3/4 send on the visit. So
exactly the same.
Yeah.
So that's why I think he's going to end up in the class.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's the full send on him. All right, here we go. All right. This is just.
Paul, hold on. Did you see the Poot had a thing earlier?
What
if you can find it, and he asked you a scenario. I think this is a good time to bring it up if you can find it.
Let me see.
The 1 more year of Kyle. You can find it.
I did not see it. Where
okay. It's back at 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. 1 more year of Kyle or signing the elite players remain. Oh man, it's just okay. All right.
If you answer 1 more year of Kyle here, I know you are the ultimate Kyle Hamilton fan, but like no way you would ever say no to.
All right. So here's the thing. So Dante, Downs, and Pemba. You know what? No. Okay.
You would just trade it straight up for Caleb Downs. I know you would.
I honestly, I might. Yeah. No, not straight up for Caleb. No.
What?
I would not.
Okay.
I want 1 more year of Kyle. Listen. Okay. I will take.
I respect it. You got to stay on brand. You got to stay on brand.
No. I'm in this scenario. I would take the elite players remaining, like Dante Down. I mean, come on. Of course, because first of all, they're not going to look. They've already proven to me that they only want Kyle to be a safety and be a gunner on punt team. And if you're not going to use him to his full maximum and put him on offense and all those other things, then fine. Let him go be a Hall of Famer with the Ravens, right? Like I'm totally happy.
Yeah.
You know what?
I think he's throughout the first pitch of the Orioles game. Yeah.
Listen, Kyle went and got the bag, and we're all happy for him. And congratulations to Kyle Hamilton. I'll take Dante, Downs, and Pemba, Richard Young. I guess those are Jason Moore, right? I'll take all of them. Let's go. So thank you, Poot, for the question. I did not see it. That's what I would do. So, all right, safety predictions. I'm going to go first. I'm protecting myself right now because I really want – this is the one player that I just really want in the class, and I can't get there. I just can't get there right now. I want to make up something that says that it can happen, but I just don't. I can't get there. I think they're gonna make it close. I think he loves Notre Dame. If he goes, I'm gonna tell you this: if he goes to Ohio State, I'm gonna be kind of upset because it's one thing to go to like Georgia or Alabama, right? Because Georgia, like they can produce the defensive backs, right? And
Ohio State has done okay at defensive back. They've done okay.
They're fine, right? But not at safety.
I mean, they have had a few. There's a few guys in the league from Ohio State at safety. It's better than Notre Dame.
Not better than Kyle Hamilton, though. And that's the thing. Is Notre Dame got an elite?
It's better.
Safety,
okay, it's better than
they are. And
I saw you tweet
14th.
this. It's like he went 14th, but talk about all the guys in between. If we're being honest here.
Harrison Smith. Listen, who since
talk about all the guys in between. Like, look, it's Alohi Gilman. And
first of all, Alohi Gilman is in the NFL.
Yes, he is. He's
Jalen
a
Elliott,
great player at Notre Dame as well.
Jalen Elliott and his 4.840 is still in the NFL. All right, they put
Jalen
him in the league.
Elliott, if he didn't run that 4.840, he's 100% getting drafted, probably like 4th or 5th round. Like that, I was so disappointed when he ran that 4.840 because he was, 100% he was going to get drafted.
And look, and he's sticking around the league.
Yeah, he's a good player. He is not a 4.8 guy. He's much faster. I don't know. Like call it like, it's like, the people that get white coat syndrome when they go to the doctor or whatever and their heart rate's all up or whatever. It's like something must have happened there. You just got like super nervous first 40 and did terrible. But like he is much faster than that.
Yeah. Look, my tweet was a factual tweet. There was nothing. It was facts. All right. That no one has been picked higher than Kyle Hamilton ever from Georgia. That is a fact. All right. At safety, of course.
Don't list the other positions.
I'm not listing other positions.
Yeah.
Look, Caleb Downs is a safety, and that's what we're talking about. And so if he goes to Ohio State, I'm going to be kind of mad because, like, look, you want to go to the SEC, Georgia, Alabama, like that is a level of football that like Notre Dame has not reached, right? Okay. All right. Ohio State, like, come on. Yeah, you're going up to the Midwest. Just move west. All right. Go to the West a little bit, not the Ohio State situation. You want to play in the Big Ten, Illinois. No, we don't want that. So, all right. But to be honest, like I just can't get there with Caleb Downs. What do you say? You want to cheer me up? Make me happy.
I can't cheer you up. I was going to say no, 100%. Like don't get me wrong. To me, it's him and Pemba and like Jeremiah Love / Richard Young. Like those are the guys that if any one of those guys end up in the class, like that is like, it flips the class to a different level because those to me, and it's not just that there are great players are going to be great players. Yeah. Very likely all of them are going to be great players in college football. It's that if you want to win a natty, those are the guys you're going to play against. Are the guys you're going to play against. So if say Downs ends up, say he doesn't go to Ohio State, he goes to Georgia. It's like, I mean, guess what? If you're in the playoff, you're going to have to go against Caleb Downs. You don't want to go against Caleb Downs, right? If you're going to go against Alabama, you don't want to go against them if they got Richard Young at running back or whatever, right? Like you don't want to do you want to take. That's why when it comes down to it, and Notre Dame is obviously taking more of those guys. Like Keon Keeley, that's why Keon Keeley is just so important to keep in the class, and I think he's staying in the class, right? But like, the reason it's not just because he's a great prospect and he's going to be great for Notre Dame. It's because if he doesn't go to Notre Dame, well, that's where he's going. And then you better have like your best guys block him because this guy's going to be a terror. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, if Mpemba goes to Georgia, it's like, well, that's like who you're going to have to play against. And that's really what it comes down to. Right. Is that, you're going to play against those guys. So winning those battles is just like, it's like win-win. It's like double win because you get it because of the guys you're beating them out for. And that's why it's important. And that's why, when you get in these games and that's right now where Notre Dame is at on paper, right? Against Ohio State, like comparatively with the guys that they've recruited and the number of like guys they recruited that every Notre Dame fan would have been like, oh man, I wish this guy chose Notre Dame, that they got on their roster. They have a lot more of those guys than Notre Dame has. Right. And that's why they're like, 2 touchdown favorites going into the game. Right. And so that's where you want to be at, where you have a lot of those guys that whatever. And you're seeing way more of that in this class and the previous class as well, too. Right. Because I mean, a lot of those guys would have loved like guys like Jalen Sneed and, and et cetera, and these guys in their class. But that's why, you want to beat these guys because it's like those are the guys you're going to have to play against.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna this up. I think we get Gray. We are getting Downs period and Mpemba take it to the bank. So we're taking it to the bank. I mean, it would be great.
I mean, okay.
It would be great, and this is what I'll say to wrap up the show. First of all, thank you everyone for being in here.
Yeah,
hit the
for
like
tuning
button,
in, guys.
hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. This was a fun conversation. We're gonna wrap up here in a second. I just want to say that, like, if Notre Dame ends up with the players that we predicted them today, what I would say is, if you're gonna get Notre Dame, you need to get them, I think, in 2023, because what they are building is objectively, like, kind of a monster. I mean, like, look, they build the lines and they build the offensive line and the defensive line, and look, what was lacking was always the skill positions. You get the receiver haul like this, you get the safety haul. Look, even without Caleb Downs, right? Like Peyton Bowen and Adon Schuler, like, that's a phenomenal two.
Those guys would be headliners in other classes, Notre Dame, in like a lot of like BK recruiting classes. They would be the headliners that everyone's like, oh,
I mean, they have,
and they're going to be really good players, but just like, they're not the headliners.
They have the number one edge rusher committed to them right now. I mean, never happens. It just doesn't, right? Like Robert Beal, that Notre Dame, they got his commitment one time, and that was like the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah.
He ended up flipping, of course, because, like, of course he did. And when they got his commitment, it was like, is Notre Dame really getting this guy? Like, no way.
I think his grandma was a prophet,
right? And then 2 months later, 2 months later, he's out of the class. So to me, if you're going to get to Notre Dame, it better be in 2023, because if it doesn't happen in 23, they're going to be a problem in 24 and 25. And that's just, at some point, the amount of talent that you bring in, whatever coaching deficiency that may exist, that we don't know exists, but may exist, is just going to be overcome, right? Like Kirby Smart overcoming a lot of stuff just for the fact that he's got a ton of talent on his roster. So, I don't know. That's my closing statement. And Jamie, do you have anything to close with on this one?
I think that's a good way to close it. I'm a firm believer in that it's just been proven in college football, the team with more talent and if they have like above average coaching, that they're going to win. They're going to be the ones who are national title contenders. Like, that's how it is. And I think, the coaching part of it was there for Notre Dame really in the last few years, but they weren't matching that with the talent, and they would lack at certain things. And that's when they played those other teams, it was tougher. And that's why too, maybe some of these games that you're like, they won all those games, beat all these unranked teams, but there's definitely some of those games that were like closer than they should have been. And I think what's going to happen if you keep upgrading the talent level, like you said, get them earlier, because 2 or 3 years from now, if you keep recruiting like this, then the roster is going to be loaded to the point that, I mean, I don't care what like some of these other teams in the ACC are doing right now. Like, and I wrote that last week in the thing, like Notre Dame is crushing the ACC in recruiting right now.
Yeah.
Crushing them. So even like people are like, ooh, look at what Louisville's doing. Like, that's exciting. Like, they got these guys and whatever. It's like Notre Dame has double the amount of 4 and 5 stars in their class that Louisville does. And people, I don't get me wrong. If you're a Louisville fan, get excited. This is like exciting times for you, but you're still not even coming close to what Notre Dame is doing in recruiting and what they're going to do overall. So that's what's going to be the scary part, is that Notre Dame is now going to be recruiting at that level and, getting like 80% of their guys that are 4 and 5 stars. I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah. I mean, Notre Dame's over the last 5 years, like, they've had a ton of culture wins, where like they just have a better kind of culture, better kind of program operation than other schools. And that allows them to, that's like Virginia and like 2019 is like a good example, right? Like just Notre Dame, like a better culture, better depth. They overcame them on the offensive line, but Virginia winning at halftime, right? And you come back and win that game. Solid win, right? There's, no anything against it. I think we're going to start to see some like eviscerations. Like, over time, there's like just the talent level is just going to be overwhelming for teams. Like you're just not even in the game. So I think that's where it's turning for Notre Dame. So with that, I think we'll end the show. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. If you're new here, subscribe, hit the like button. We always say we're going to be doing more and more shows over the summer too, and check out irishsportsdaily.com. Tons of information. We're getting like all this juice and all these predictions, and we have the information to kind of make the predictions because of the work that Matt and Christian do. They do a phenomenal job. I'm going to try to get Christian on for a show soon. Was trying to get him this week, but it didn't work out with schedules and everything. But a lot of intel there. Maybe I could get like a huge like recruiting show with him and Matt. Try to get Matt on. But yeah, so there's a lot going on. There's going to be there's commitment dates coming in July for Rico Flores and Christian Gray. I think we're going to want to tune into those. Micah Bell is July 1st. Probably want to tune into those if you listen to the show. We're predicting those guys to Notre Dame. Keep your heads up for any other commitment announcements. I mean, shoot, man.
Jack Larson's coming in the Friday.
So Jack Larson's coming in Friday.
Like Notre Dame for that too.
He was at the Notre Dame camp, threw the ball around with CJ Carr and was ranting and raving about it. Looked great.
Looked very good. I was very impressed. I mean, I would say seeing him initially, I was, not like over the moon. He's not a guy that looks like he's going to be amazing off the bus right now. He's still got quite a bit of physical development to do.
He's a 24 kid.
When he started, like running around and showing his athleticism, you're like, oh, this guy's a dude. Yeah.
All right. So that's what we got to look forward to. So once again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.